Hello, Guardians. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I'm your host, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the vault-dwelling ironing board himself, Josh Finney.
You know what? I like that you are calling me the ironing board when you're the one who got one as a desk.
Yeah, you're my ironing board, Josh.
You're the iron to my ironing board. You could say we're ironing lords.
Ooh, good one.
Ooh, I don't feel good about that one at all.
Yes, you do. You feel so good about that one.
I feel a little good.
You love that one.
Corey.
Yeah. I bought a desk and they sent me an ironing board. It was awesome. And
Amazon sent Corey a desk. I have been running all over. This is probably the first time that I have sat still today other than to eat my sandwich. I was a sandwich casual this evening.
Yes.
But, man, we are about to enter a very, very busy couple of weeks here. With the new season starting, we've got Gamescom. I'm going on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I do, in fact, have my Backbone controller in my apartment. So when I get back from vacation, I look forward to talking about how it was playing Destiny on that.
Do you like it?
From the few brief minutes I got with it earlier, I do like it. I like how it feels. It feels better than the Razer grip that's out for phones, in my opinion. If you have an iPhone, I think this is the only phone controller to use. Otherwise, you're better off just getting a clip for a regular controller. But I played a little bit of Hades, and it felt good.
Ooh.
It felt real good on it. And there's an audio port on it, which I really like. There's a 3mm jack, so I was able to plug my headphones in real easily. That was a relief. So, because I still buy those headphones and then use a lightning adapter. And it was nice to know I don't necessarily have to travel with a headset. Just use my phone's headphones. So
nice. You kind of like your video fizzled out because
I know. I don't know what just happened.
No, I moved some recording stuff around because we did some gameplay capture. With nerd journalists and Colonel Panic yesterday, and I moved all of my external recordings to my external hard drive. So I actually just started recording our Skype call too, just in case, which is why the video flickered.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, my webcam definitely. I have a ring light built into my webcam. For anybody who doesn't know my setup, and it just it flickered and my screen went blue for a second, and I was very concerned. I've never seen a blue screen on my Mac, and I was very worried.
Yeah, no, I just I want to have a backup just in case this, new setup doesn't exactly. Also, I didn't record the intro either. I didn't record our ironing board stint. So hopefully it all comes through. It's fine.
That's upsetting.
Yeah. Anyways, Josh, we have a few things to.
Yeah. So speaking of new setups,
do you want to talk about what you're doing next week first?
No. Why don't you go ahead and hit yours first, and then I'll address next week.
All right. So basically, people who like to watch the video version, Tower Casuals is moving to its own YouTube channel. So this episode will be the last kind of proper episode on the old YouTube channel, the Boss Rush Network YouTube channel. We're moving Tower Casuals over to its separate YouTube channel. It's there. All the episodes aren't posted yet. I'm hoping to get it all done, at least all of the episodes up by the time the new season starts. It's really difficult because YouTube only lets you upload 15 videos within a 24-hour period, which is really stupid. But it should be done by the time the new season starts. And then also I have broken out all of our lore corners. So if you want to catch up on some seasonal lore, it's in seasonal playlists. So you can go watch Season of the Hunt, Season of Arrivals, Season of the Chosen.
If you want your Dollar Tree bite.
Yeah. Also, if people have submitted questions to the show, which you should do, at Tower Casuals on Twitter and towercasuals@gmail.com. Give us your questions, thoughts, ideas, that kind of thing. I've also taken the time to break some of those out if I catch them. So you can also catch our ranking of the raids episodes from Season of Arrivals, which I think we should do one of those every time a new raid comes out. By the way, because that was actually a really good segment of that show. But yeah, just to catch everybody up, Tower Casuals is moving to a new home. We're also going to do a few different ideas. We're going to pull in our friends Nerd Generalist and Colonel Panic to do some interesting things. Nothing to announce yet. We're still kind of new at this expansion idea for Tower Casuals, but if you want to watch the video, the YouTube video, we will be moving. You can access the Tower Casuals YouTube channel from the Boss Rush Network's YouTube channel, or you can just search Tower Casuals and it should be the first channel that pops up. So now that that's out of the way, Josh, you're doing a special episode next week after the big reveal.
Yeah, so we're going to do a special Tuesday episode for you guys. It'll go live probably an hour and some change after the reveal ends. As soon as the reveal ends, we're hitting record, and I'm going to be joined by three of our favorite returning guests, A1 Johnny, Nerd Generalist, and Colonel Panic. We are going to break down all or some of us don't quite have, well, because of working from home, we don't know if two of them will be able to join us, but the current plan is if plans hold, they will all be here. At the very least, Johnny and I will be here to go live. We're going to talk about all the latest and greatest things that get announced on Tuesday, and I will have a second screen up, hoping to God that Bungie doesn't pull a fast one on us and announce something during the Xbox show, which happens immediately after. So it will be audio only, though. My Mac simply cannot handle OBS.
What I'll do once it's posted, Josh, I'll make a video that night.
Okay.
I'll try to get a video up either that night with the audio from the podcast, with the reveal stuff kind of playing behind it.
Gotcha.
So I will try to have a video up in a timely manner. It might go up Wednesday. But just so everybody knows, if you're looking for the video, it will be up later, if not the next day, for that.
No, barring anything major, like a dungeon being announced that will go live on Tuesday night, we probably won't talk too much about Season 15, which we still don't know what it's called as of right now. We're 5 days away, and we don't have a name.
That's so crazy.
It's funny. I really like it. We will... and like no teasers for the expansion or anything like that. This time last year, we'd had a few Beyond Light teasers and everything else. We're going to focus a lot on the Witch Queen, on the anti-cheat, which we're going to address tonight as well, on the Trials changes. Those seem to be like the big cornerstones, as well as the season. The seasonal stuff Corey and I will get into on the normal Thursday night show is when we're going to address all of that. But... it's going to be a real quick recap because hey, John's taking off work, so we want to jump in and play some Destiny.
Yeah,
we want to go sit and wait in a queue and have the game melt down on us like it did for Splicer.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try to stream it a little bit too that night. So I mean, I think our plan is to at least some of us play together, if not at least be in a Discord chatting with each other.
Yeah, I think the plan was for us to for all of us to hop in Discord and then go try the seasonal activity out at least.
Yeah.
Play some of that, play some Crucible, maybe some Gambino.
Yeah.
See how that goes. But Corey, now that the housekeeping is out of the way.
Well, one last thing. If we're gonna stream
we have one last thing.
Thing.
What?
If we're gonna stream it, Josh, Tower Casuals needs its own Twitch channel. So
does.
You can head on over to twitch.tv/Tower Casuals to watch us play the seasonal event on Tuesday night. Give us a follow. It's the streaming stuff. I don't know how frequent it's going to be, but gotta have it if you want to at least try. So
for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, Josh, speaking of sandwich casuals, we got a meaty TWAB with a ton of toppings.
This is like extra meat on it. This is one of the thickest TWABs I've ever seen.
2 C's thick, man.
Dude, it is 2 C's. It is as the kids say these days. It is dummy thick.
God, I never even heard that. That means I'm just old.
I've heard it. I'm on the internet more than Corey is, apparently.
I feel like. Why do I feel like Ray told you that at some point?
Ray absolutely told me that.
I know he
did. It may have been in a suggestive manner.
That does not surprise me.
Jumping into the TWAB. Jumping into our TWAB this week. It's the big sandbox preview. The weapon tuning, this is a 17-page TWAB if you were to copy and paste all the words into Microsoft Word. So I'm going to tell you guys right now, we are not going to read everything in here. I encourage you, as always, whenever there's sandbox changes, please pull it up, read along with us. We're going to kind of bullet point this. We're going to hit the big things because we have a lot of topics to get to tonight. It is the last show of the season. So tonight we want to get through the TWAB. We want to talk about the anti-cheat, which accidentally got leaked earlier today. We want to talk about our impressions of Season of the Splicer overall. We want to, kind of rank it in there with the seasons. And, of course, we want to hit the very final piece of the lore, which is about the exotic ship that you can obtain this week in-game. So, without further ado, Corey, let's break some hearts with this weapon tuning.
Let's do it. Breaking hearts, man. This seems tuned directly to me.
Oh, there's some broken hearts. There are some broken hearts over Anarchy.
I think Cosmo and Damage and I think Chris just DM'd me. He's like, hey, what do you want changed? I'm like, you know what? I gotta tell you, I'm really bad, and here are my favorite weapons. Please make them better.
They did not listen. So we kind of getting into this. They define some terminology. They define things like fall off, projectiles, and shotgun terminology. This is stuff we covered before. But fall off is damage fall off start is the distance where damage fall off begins or stops doing the maximum damage, and then end is where obviously it hits the damage floor. And there's a lot for shotguns, how they explain out the pellet distribution. And then we're going to get into global changes, though, real quick here. Season 15 will introduce legendary stasis weapons, and we've seen concern about how these are intended to work, particularly in PvP. So here are the details. Stasis power weapons are in the power slot, but all other stasis weapons are in the kinetic slot. This is to avoid overcrowding the energy slot so that it's reasonable to use one in match game content. The kinetic slot will not be renamed at this time. Stasis weapons don't intrinsically do anything different from weapons of other damage types, but they are the only weapons that can roll with stasis perks. We generally intend stasis perks with slowing or freezing effects to have a kill trigger, this being easy enough to trigger in PvE and fun to use, but not obnoxious to play against in PvP. I like this a lot. The big thing, though, with this also, is that the quick swap glitch. You see this in a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of Twitch streamers, a lot of day one content, or soloing raid bosses. You can no longer quick swap. The glitch that allowed you to do it super fast is now gone. The glitch uses a combination of inputs to animation cancel, allowing near instant weapon slots. Swaps. We want the handling stat to continue to have value on weapons and don't want, for example, aggressive shotguns to lose their key downside. Slow swaps due to an unintentional side effect of the animation system. And my personal favorite change in this entire thing. All primary weapons now have infinite ammo.
Yes.
Thank fucking God.
Dude, that's so awesome.
I cannot tell you how many times I have been in a GM and I have run out of scout rifle ammo.
Oh my gosh, dude, this is awesome.
This is one of the best days of my life.
What a great change.
Nobody tell Chelsea that I said that, but this is one of the greatest days of my life. Thank God this finally happened. It took so long and so many suggestions for this to finally happen. I'm so excited about this.
This is awesome. It's so good. Dude, I totally missed that. I was trying to skim the TWAB earlier, but I was trying to get past, because, for me, weapon stuff is not as important to me as it is for you. But, this is dude, I can't even tell you how many times I'm, running, some Nightfalls or whatever, and just some BS crap. I run out of ammo for some reason, and it's just oh my gosh, where's my ammo? Why am I using my dead sword instead of a primary?
There are a couple of changes to perks as they relate to primary ammo. Include drop mag. Drop mag's downside of reducing reserve ammo is now almost meaningless. So that has been reworked to be higher reload speed and smaller magazine size. That's a pretty fair change, I think. Mm-hmm. I use a drop mag scout rifle all the time with my Night Watch. Compact arrow shafts upside of increasing reserve ammo, likewise, has been reworked to be reload and handling. There are a few other perks that will refer to reserves in a way that's no longer accurate. Those have been changed. Target farming trials weapons will be much more efficient in Season 15, and we have some cool new perks for players to play with that we wanted to put on trials weapons. All trials weapons available in Season 15 now have 7 perks in each column.
Jesus.
It used to be 5. Very excited that there are more perks that can roll on these weapons. That is exciting. That is things that we absolutely wanted to see. So you're not just killing yourself for that one roll, but there may be a couple of really good rolls you can get. The more opportunities for experimentation, the better in a game like this.
Yeah.
Moving forward, the guidelines for reissued weapons will be to remove the least useful 2 to 3 perks and add 2 to 3 newer perks that give the weapon some new options and may result in an entirely new top tier roll without removing the old one. Thank you. This is what we wanted with bringing back weapons. I don't want to have to grind for the same shit I used to have. Now, that's great if you want to give that to me, but I want to have new combinations to go for. I like having Vorpal on a lot of my weapons. If Vorpal is a perk that I can get, I'm probably going to try and get a gun that I really like. If Vorpal's in its pool, I'm going to try to get one with Vorpal on it. So This is good news, I think, for a lot of people who like to min-max their builds. This is great news. This, again, you can't say, oh, well, I've been there before, like I know exactly what role to get. No, like that may be like a middle of the road role now, even though it used to be God tier before. You love to see this. This is part of how you help keep a game like this fresh, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So guns are still sunset, but when they get brought back, and for me, the clearest example of this is that we are probably going to get Black Armory weapons back in the next 6 months at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be this season, but I think they're going to be added to the World Loot Pool either in Witch Queen or the season immediately after, either in season 16 or season 17 is when I expect Black Armory weapons to be back.
Yeah, I don't expect it that first season back. I expect it probably 17. I would say season 17.
Yeah, probably. That would line up with the armor coming back when they came back in Chosen and things like that. This is what we were requesting, though, with these kinds of weapons, and this is something that needs to be applied. And that when they say going forward, to me that means that they're going to be bringing a lot more back.
Yeah,
like those are weapons that already rolled with combination, like those and the Gambit weapons already rolled like that. I think this is also a way to keep the ones that had static rolls in year 1 fresh when you bring them back. They never had randomized perks, or to freshen up Destiny 1 guns. So that's. Man, that is just fantastic. And they admit that the overcorrection was replacing most of the perks like they did starting in Chosen. And they're like, nope, we've already realized we did a boo-boo. We made a big boo-boo, which is what a lot of us said about the Moon and Dreaming City weapons. That it just, cool, they're back, but they're still pretty much useless. And speaking of which, here we go. Added 1 or 2 of the original perks to each column for Moon weapons reissued in Update 3.2.1. Lectern weapons only, since these can be target farmed. We're okay with increasing the size of the perk pool. Added 1 of the original perks to 1 or both columns for Dreaming City weapons reissued for Tiger Spite, Twilight Oath, and Abide the Return. These cannot be target farmed yet. We didn't want to increase the size of the pools by more than 1. That does indicate to me they will update the Dreaming City weapons again at some point. And that's perhaps our best indication that this is not going to be an area that will be sunset this fall.
Yeah.
If they say they're going to have a way to target farm this, unless they move it to like Umbral Ingrams, which I just can't see happening either.
I don't see why they would do that.
All right. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of it, though.
Ooh.
Archetype changes. Note, exotics receive these changes as written unless otherwise mentioned in the exotics section afterwards. This is where the pain is coming for a lot of people. Ooh. This first one. Breach-loaded grenade launchers. They're increasing as a pain point in PvP, and with the shotgun nerf, we've seen an increase in usage. This change aims to reduce the ease of getting big splash damage for priming or cleaning up targets. We'll watch how things change and make further adjustments in a future update if needed. We are fine with how they perform in PvE, so have compensated there. Thank God. I really, really, really like this trend of we're going to adjust it in one and not the other.
Mm-hmm.
Because the concern has always been, shit, PvP players are complaining. Like we saw with Mountaintop, PvP players are complaining the best weapon in the game for PvE damage is going to be nerfed now.
Yeah.
We saw it happen with Recluse. We saw it happen with Mountaintop. I think this is part of, we talked last week about how they moved the engine and how or a couple weeks ago, how it's taken so long to get the Crucible maps going.
Right.
This is one of the things I'm glad they focused on. The back end, instead of fixing Crucible maps, I agree that we need the Crucible maps. This is, if I had the gun to my head, I had to pick one or the other, I will take this 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I will take weapon balance in modes way, way, way more seriously. So blast radius is reduced. For example, max blast radius decreased from 4.55 to 4.15. Minimum 3.8 to 3.4. Splash damage is reduced by 20. So total damage for a direct hit goes from 220 down to 200 before taking spike or proximity grenades into account. Increased damage in PvE by 12%. You gotta.
That's a big jump. That's a big jump. 12%.
That's a big jump. Because Salvage of Salvo is one of the best weapons in the game for PvE and PvP. Mm-hmm. I still expect to see Salvagers used a lot in things like Trials, but this makes it even better in Grandmaster and Endgame content, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And note, Wither Horde is unaffected. Not what people were hoping to hear for Crucible, I don't think.
This next one?
Scout.
Oh,
go ahead. So machine gun usage, surprisingly high. They are not fulfilling their intended role in high difficulty content. Ammo efficient ad clear and secondary single target sustained damage. Increased damage in PvE by 20%.
Yes.
We love to see it.
I love it.
Scout rifles and hand cannons feel weaker than we'd like, and hard PvE content. Increased damage versus miners by 15%.
Nice.
I almost always run a scout or an auto rifle in game content.
Yeah.
So let me please say thank you to all of the scout rifle devotees who refuse to give up on them.
I know. That's me, Josh.
Oh, man. Here is my absolute favorite update, though. And this is really the chunk of really the TWAB, I think. Fusion rifles. This is what I said we were not going to read through everything. We are absolutely not reading through all of this. There is so much here for fusion rifles. I encourage you, if you've gotten a plug one the last couple of seasons that you have really liked, or you like to use Jotun, or you like to use Bastion, you might want to read this section thoroughly a few times.
Oh, yeah.
There is a lot here. They have benefited indirectly from the mid-season 14 shotgun nerf, but the subfamilies are not as different from each other as we wanted and weren't all useful in a variety of content. I'm not going to talk about evaluating the other options that they had. I don't want to confuse anybody. You can go read that for yourself. Increased PvE damage bonus so that all subfamilies have a 15% PvE bonus. Previously high impact was 0%. Precision was 10%, and rapid fire was 12.5%. So a nice big chunk across the board. Big chunk across the board for fusion rifles right there in PvE damage. Pushed subclass families further apart, adjusting charge time, shots fired per burst was 7 for all, and damage. Note that base below means without battery perks, charge time masterwork, or adept charge time mod. And so we're going to break these down real quickly here. Again, you guys can come read these for yourselves. But high impacts will charge slower, while still strong require more planning to use effectively. Your base charge time is going to increase to a full second from 0.8. Shots per burst is reduced from 7 to 5. Reduced total damage per burst. Charging these in the open is super risky, but pre-charging around corners or otherwise in safety is very effective. With the reduced shots per burst, there are less reliance on stability, so you can stack a bit more range. Precisions and adaptives are close to unchanged. In case you want to know what we're referring to here, that is, for example, plug 1 fits into this family. So They feel that these are effective all around without stepping on the niches of high impacts and rapid fires. Shots per burst is unchanged. Base charge time is unchanged. Slightly increased total damage. So that's the one that's going from 12.5 to 15%. So they're going to continue to perform just as is, but they're going to be slightly better. I have a feeling you're going to, and they note specifically here, they expect to see Plug 1 used in PvP. And I totally agree. I have gotten several Adept ones this season. I expect to see these a lot in PvP next season. And that's good. It's been a while. Like, the last time we had fusions that were, like, really terrorizing, I think, was Erentil.
Mm-hmm.
And we all got really tired of Erentil and Jotun.
Mm-hmm.
Rapid fires, obviously charge faster, allowing them to be used reactively against charging enemies or aggressively when pushing forward. Base charge time is decreased from 0.54 to 0.46. 9 shots per burst, and total damage per burst is also increased. These are effective against shotgun rushers. So I like that. You can fire 2 bursts within a rapid fire before a high impact user finishes charging their first. Like that a lot. Part of this work on fusions required adjusting several perks in one mod. Backup plan was incompatible with the fusion rifle changes, and we felt like the perk could use a rework anyways. Adjust charge time multiplier from 0.85 to 0.7, scales damage by 0.8, remove plus 100 charge time stat. Liquid coils and accelerated coils needed a rework for similar reasons. Adept charge time mod felt pointless, and we felt like it would still be balanced against other mods if it didn't reduce damage. Changed functionality to scale charge time directly instead of changing the charge time stat without adjusting damage. There is a lot here about the charge time masterwork.
Yeah.
I really encourage you guys to come. Again, like, this is the big section. Like, I've read a lot of it, but I encourage you to read it. I'm just kind of flying through because we have so much to get through.
Yeah.
But the charge time masterwork, fusion rifle's damage, it's determined by its charge time stat, similar to how most other weapons damage is determined by the rate of fire stat. Masterworks only increase weapon stats for performance reasons, so it is not possible to change how charge time maps onto damage without big changes to how the stat works. We investigated doing this by making the masterwork a perk, but that would cause fusion rifles to exceed the perk budget, resulting in bad things happening, i.e. Telesto. We feel this masterwork is more viable now. It rarely reduces bullets to kill. They're going to watch and see how fusion rifle changes play out, and they have options to address issues if that is still needed, specifically regarding to the masterwork for charge time. This is a big change to fusion rifles, including all exotic fusions. So that means Telesto, Bastion, Jotun are all included in this. So this is the season, I think, for you to make a big change like this. So that way, if it breaks the game in any way, you can change it before your major expansion comes out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is, for me, this is the experimentation season for you, if you're going to make big changes. And that's clearly why we're getting such a big sandbox change. Gosh, we're not even halfway through this TWAB.
No. Dude, we're like a third. We're like a third of the way.
Exotics. Specifically, we have 3 major exotics we're going to talk about. We're going to cover a couple of others that I know that people use a lot. Anarchy. This is the big one. It's been dominant forever. You guys know this. Really, to me, it was good, and it became really dominant after the introduction of Divinity. We've seen how it's basically the go-to strat for Taniks, for Atheon, for the Templar encounter, for Grandmasters. Like, I don't think I've done a single Grandmaster without Anarchy on.
I mean, it just seems like the new go-to, right? Like, it just
it's absolutely. I mean, it's been the hotness for a while. I don't think it's once been nerfed in 3 years, and so they're hitting it pretty hard here. But this is still, in my opinion, more generous than I expected. I thought they were going to gut this gun completely.
Yeah,
but I think even with this change, it is still a big top tier option.
This seems like this
total
change
reserve and magazine. Go ahead.
I was going to say this change seems like when they brought Gallahorn back and nerfed it a little bit, and everybody was worried that it was just going to be like a junk gun, and then it just ended up being like, oh, well, seems like everybody still kind of uses it.
It was just another option at that point.
Yeah.
It was still good, but I think at that point, Dark Drinker had taken the crown for best exotic at that point for DPS.
Yeah.
The big one here. So they noted here, we like that it's a great choice for hard solo content, and trapping enemy spawns choke points, but don't want it to remain part of a dominant tactic for boss damage, and particularly don't want it to be great for boss damage and add clears in a single encounter. With this change, we expect it to remain strong without being borderline usable as a primary weapon. It's true. I've gotten to the point where in Vault, I pretty much use Anarchy for everything. On Divinity for Confluxes, just to hit those Overload champions real quick for everybody. But other than that, I throw on the second we get to Templar, I have Anarchy on and I don't take it off. And that's not a great thing. I pretty much exclusively use it in Gatekeepers and even to an extent in Atheon. I use it an awful lot. Because, I mean, with Breach and Clear this season, we didn't necessarily need Divinity all the time. And so I'm glad it's getting to go out on top with the last hurrah. But the two changes they've made, reduce total reserve magazine ammunition from 26 to 16. That's pretty big. That's reducing it by about 40%.
Yeah.
And then reduce damage by 30% versus bosses. Champions are not bosses. This is still going to be a top tier choice for, I think, Grandmasters and for champion heavy content.
Yeah.
Because it's going to remain unchanged versus them and versus mobs. I think it's great for a lot of raid encounters. It's not the end all anymore, though, which I think was an important distinction to make. So, like, you can still use the strat on Templar, but you better be ready to do it legit also. Instead of just firing a ton of Anarchy and then double slugging straight into the Divinity bubble.
Right.
I like this change. I do have a feeling they're going to renege on some of the ammo changes. I can very easily see that being bumped from 16 back up to 20. In a future update. I could see that happening. I don't know that they would do it, but I can see it happening. I think it's going to be more crucial than ever to have reserves and ammo finders on for this gun if you're going to use it. So I think it's still going to be a very viable part of a strategy. The people this is really going to impact are ones who want to kill the raid bosses with only a few people instead of a full 6. I think it's going to impact solo players who want to solo dungeon. And it's going to hurt raid groups that are inexperienced, let's be honest. This is ultimately going to come back around to hurting people who have, for years, heard Anarchy is the thing you need. And a lot of those people probably are just now getting to the point where they can afford to buy it with their Spoils of Conquest. And now we're nerfing the gun.
Right.
It's still very good. It just won't be like, oh my god, we're going to watch the damage literally fall off. Which, as we all know in Destiny, that means something else is going to take its place eventually. So
something new, hopefully.
I am largely okay with this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm fine.
It's a fair change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Xenophage did not need to benefit from the global machine gun buff. It does benefit from the damage per bullet buff to machine guns, but now has a slower rate of fire to state, resulting in slightly lower DPS, but higher burst damage and sustained damage since it's now more ammo efficient. Rate of fire has gone from 120 to 90, and it received a little bit less of the machine gun PvE damage buff. So Xenophage largely staying where it's at. It's going to fire a little bit slower, but it's going to be easier to hit those precise hits, I think, because it's firing slower. So I mean, again, we could see a resurgence of this against some bosses, firing into the Divinity bubble, for example. I like it. Fighting Lion. I wanna talk about this because I think this is really funny. So they've addressed the specific case of it in PvP without affecting in PvE. Fighting Lion reserve ammo increased from a lot to infinite. Receives the same changes as other Breach grenade launchers. Base reload stat is now 0. Increases reload speed to previous level on damaging multiple enemies with 1 grenade. We will keep an eye on this, but believe it is in a good place with this change. And note, we are not going to over-nerf an exotic with its own subreddit. There is a Fighting Lion subreddit, in case you've never seen it. You shouldn't be manually reloading Fighting Lion anyways. Fighting Lion is one of those that if you're good with it, you're good with it. If you're not, you're probably not affected by this at all. I do expect to see a lot more people trying it with the news that it's going to be infinite grenades.
Yeah, that's...
And that is only for PvE content. It should be completely noted here. It is not allowed to be done. It was they even say it was way too much in PvP based on our internal playtest. The one I'm very excited about, though, Vex Mythoclast.
Yeah, this is the one when Vault first came out. You said this weapon was just not what you wanted it to be.
I've used it 3 times since getting it on my first run.
Yeah, and that's a weapon that you should like. That's the one that you should be like really excited to use like all the time.
Yeah, I used it for 3 seasonal challenges, and that was it. Just because it was the easiest thing to take. I mean, it's got like 600 shots, and it all counts as a fusion rifle, so that's how I cleaned up in my Gambit and Crucible ones so easily.
Yeah, so
that's what I did. However, it fell short of balanced at launch. Ownership is higher now. We want to be strong enough to be a desirable reward from Vault, because they said an incredibly low ownership would have broken PvP if it was a dominant weapon. Mm-hmm. PvE damage increased by 40%.
God.
Range stat increased to be near best in class for high impact auto rifles.
Jesus.
Increased stability. Reworked catalyst to grant stability and damage after a kill. I need to go get the catalyst for this gun, but I'm waiting for at least one other person to get it. Increased rate of fire from 360 to 390. Reduced linear mode change charge time from 820 to 533. Same as standard linear fusion rifles. No longer loses overcharge stack on stow except when in linear fusion rifle mode. Amazing changes. Vex is about to terrorize people again. I think it's going to be a great option, especially with Overload champion, or not Overload, Unstoppable Fusion Rifle being a mod next season.
Yeah.
This is going to be a god tier weapon for some of that content.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I look very forward to running this in Grandmasters and Master Nightfalls this season.
So we're going to run Vault so I can try to get it now, right?
Yes. Merciless. Might as well make a buff we've been thinking about with the fusion rifle changes. Updated perk to account for fewer shots per burst. Reduced damage penalty for increasing charge rate by 40%. Jotun. Because of how the charge time stat works with the fusion rifle changes, we made a small change to avoid breaking this weapon. In playtesting, it makes almost no difference, but if we didn't mention it, someone would notice. Charge time is reduced by 0.05 seconds. Literally. So it charges a tiny bit faster and slightly reduced damage per shot. Okay, fine. You're in PvP, it's a one-hit kill anyways.
Yeah.
No one is taking Jotun into PvE for any serious content. I wish I could. With Unstoppable, I very well may be taking it into some content.
You'll try it. You'll take it. You'll try it. You'll try
The last one we're going to address here is Bastion. Feels very strong with shotguns being less dominant, so we're preemptively adjusting it in PvP. It's also super low usage in PvE, so we're buffing it there too. Reduced damage by 15%. Can now not quite kill a Guardian with one shot in the 3-shot burst it fires. Good, because that was just a horrifyingly bad experience.
Yeah.
To be killed by one bullet. Spread angle is increased by 10%, and PvE damage is increased by 25%. So overall, 10% increase in PvE. So I think that's really good. Couple perk changes here. Firing line. We like the idea of the perk. It was just giving away a bit too much damage for almost free. Reduced damage bonus to plus 20% precision damage for all supported weapon archetypes. Will roll on snipers, linear fusion rifles, and machine guns, and maybe some other stuff in the future. Excited to see that back. Firing line was great on snipers. I really, really miss being able to use my firing line sniper.
Yeah. Great changes. Good changes.
Certain damage perks only affected impact damage on explosive weapons. We've updated those to increase detonation damage, and that's Kill Clip, Rampage, and Adrenaline Junkie. So that's awesome. Some of the stuff they're looking at in the future, we're going to break this down into 3 different areas. The near future, I'm just going to read what they say for each of these, and we can break them down later. We're devoting a lot of energy to the Witch Queen. There's a lot of things changing in a few weeks, so we want to see how things shake up before deciding tuning. We're watching Season 15's launch very closely, and we are ready to make adjustments as needed in the first half of the season. The more distant future, but still before Witch Queen, linear fusion rifles and caster frame swords are not where we want them to be, so expect some tweaks. We're also looking at underused or underpowered exotics, such as Arbalist, Suros Regime, Cryosthesia, Malfeasance, and more. If you have issues with spamming high rate of fire semi-automatic weapons as fast as possible, we've got something in the works for you. Priming a target and quickly swapping for a cleanup is easier than we'd like, and we're looking at options for building towards faster swap speeds. We've got a step at hitting both of these points coming. That is, they're already preemptively telling us there will be something in this super long season. And like we said at the top of this is the time to do it.
Right.
You know, I know you have to pull people off the Witch Queen to do this or divert them, but it's needed. Like, Arbalest basically got smacked with a sledgehammer when it got nerfed a few seasons ago, which it needed to be hit with.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be addressed later on. It is getting intrinsic anti-barrier built into it later on. So I do think we're going to start seeing a trend of most exotics will have an anti-champion mod built into them to make selecting things a little bit less punishing for endgame content. And then Witch Queen and beyond. We've talked about wanting legendary weapons to have more identity based on their source and expect to ship a new system for this in or close to Witch Queen. Kind of curious to see if we hear anything about that on Tuesday. I don't expect us to, though. In Season 15, we tweaked exotic primaries to generate ammo faster through ammo finder mods and have another change plan to make them more enticing in hard PvE content. Good, but I already put on a lot of ammo finders, so thank you for that. And that's it. So they so give it to them. Give it to them once. The sky is not falling yet. We have a few days before these take effect. I have a feeling this is going to be like when everybody freaked out over the last change, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of not noticeable." Okay, okay.
I mean, like the Destiny community always does, just freaks out over everything.
The biggest thing that they're hitting with a hammer is Anarchy. We knew it was coming. Anarchy and Warmind Cells have both been hit pretty hard between last week's TWAB and this week's. It was needed. They got to run rampant for several seasons, and that's fine. But with no more sunsetting, they had to do something about Warmind Cells and Anarchy. You've had 3 years of that gun just running crazy,
right?
Running absolutely wild. It's time. Let a new heavy take that.
Right.
Corey, any more thoughts on upcoming weapon changes before we dive into some of the weapons we'll be earning next season?
No, I mean, I think I'm happy with most of them, right? Like the scout rifle stuff really makes me happy. The infinite ammo in primary spots is just like, oh, thank God. You know, like, I mean, we already said that. But, I mean, that's kind of it. Like, I want to see how they, like you said, this is an experimental season for them because it's long. They want to get the sandbox kind of perfect because they know a lot of people are jumping in, either coming back or jumping in for the first time with the Witch Queen, right? Like, so they want to get this ready to go so they can, just kind of focus on that content instead of making the sandbox feel good, So I dig it. I like it. It's good.
Yeah, I like this. I like these changes a lot. I'm overall very happy with them, especially they touched on so many fusion rifles there. You love to see it.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to get into here, it's the second big part of the TWAB, is some of the weapon rewards we'll be getting in season. We're calling it Season of the Voop until further notice.
Season of the Voop?
Yep.
Why are you calling it Voop?
They've done so many changes to fusion rifles.
Okay.
Okay. Fine. Season of the Boop, then. Would that make you feel better?
I mean, a little bit.
Okay.
That tickles the soft side.
It tickles the pickle a little bit.
Ooh.
The Ritual Quest weapon is a rocket launcher with the Explosive Light perk. Explosive Light is a new perk, I believe. I do not remember this perk.
This is this one in the picture, right? In the TWAB, this silver looking thing.
Yes.
It looks cool.
I'm dumb. It is technically, I believe it's in the game. Oh, it's an older perk, but it checks out.
It checks out. It's fine. I got that reference.
So how Explosive Light worked before, from what I'm seeing online, is that picking up an Orb of Light increases the next... Oh, it was a grenade perk before. Oh, okay. Picking up an Orb of Light increases the next grenade's blast radius and damage. I can't believe that is like the perk for this, but I'm going to hold judgment on it.
Well, maybe it's just...
I guess it is. Oh, yes, it is. It is. I'm dumb. It's from Wendigo. It was a perk that was on Wendigo. Excited to see how that plays out on a rocket launcher. It looks very interesting. I'll say that. And then there's 3 new post-game rewards coming for Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible. Of course, they will drop randomly. It appears that it is they're Suros weapons, or at least a Suros sidearm, what looks to be a pulse rifle, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that is a scout.
Yeah, I would say a scout.
Scout rifle. I'm wondering if it's the Gambit scout rifle.
Yeah.
The big thing for me here, though, is freshening up the loot pool of Prophecy. And I love this.
Does this mean they're taking away the Ikelos weapons from there?
I do not believe so.
Or
I think they would have told us.
Okay.
I think they would have told us. That is the only place where you can get the Ikelos shoddy.
I know. And sniper. I still haven't run the Prophecy.
Or not sniper, hand cannon. I don't think that they are taking those out. They, however, may take out some of the other weapons that are in there.
Yeah.
Like Dollar Store Recluse. I'm actually completely forgetting the name. But Trials of the 9 weapons are coming back. They've heard a lot of feedback over the last year. They have random rolls, and certain ones will drop from specific encounters of Prophecy. Included here, we see that we have a sniper. We have what looks to be a sniper, shoddy, hand cannon, sidearm. And I'm going to go ahead and say that is an auto rifle and a pulse, or an auto rifle and a scout, maybe?
I would say...
I don't know.
I would say a pulse and a scout.
Pulse and a scout. Okay, well, tune in next week to see if we were right or not.
Yeah.
Because I plan on running this as soon as it goes up with the updated rolls.
Dude, those weapons look sick.
God, dude, they're sexy. That's some sexy weapon design right there.
Yeah.
On top of all these weapons, we're also updating the world loot pool with some fresh new drops. Here are new weapons you can expect to see start popping up in the wild. We've got a sniper there. We've got what appears to be a fusion. We've got an auto rifle. We've got a scout, a hand cannon, and a sidearm. They are really trying to emphasize the weapons that the archetypes that they have fixed this season.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Which is good. I'm very in for it. That is a dead orbit Viced gun on the bottom, so I'm interested to see how that plays out.
That thing looks so cool.
These are older. I expect these are older weapons that have previously been in either D1 or D2.
Well, that sidearm is definitely the one that you get from Shaxx when you started the Red War campaign.
Well, see, I don't remember that, so...
I'm just kidding. But seriously,
yeah, so there's some cool stuff there. That about does it for everything. Bungie is really pushing their Bungie Foundation right now because there's a lot of shit going on in this world. Corey and I talked about some of it at length, and the rest of you know what's going on. I am buying this Guardians of Hope t-shirt, though. I'm absolutely buying this.
Yeah.
It is a propaganda poster with Shaxx on it. Your victory gives the city hope, Guardian, and I read it in Lenny James's voice every time that I see it. So I plan on getting it. I really like it. I like the emblems they give you, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are cool. So, hey, I like to support charity.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of charity. It's why I buy a lot of stuff from Bungie Rewards, because I know that at least some of the money goes to the foundation.
Yeah.
I
love it. I love the shirt. I love the way. I love that style. Right, like it just. Yeah, looks so good. It looks good. It's so good.
Big fan. I'm looking to see if there's anything else in here that we need. Crossplay goes live early in the season. The Heroes Memorial Quest. Go get your exotic ship if you haven't gotten it yet.
How do I get the exotic ship?
You have to go talk to the Splicer servitor when you load in.
Oh, the Splicer.
Go to the helm, talk to him.
Okay.
Talk to the servitor. It'll tell you to go to the tower, and when you load into the tower, it'll literally be right in front of you. You just have to go to the Heroes Memorial.
Yeah.
Where Summer Grandma is usually standing.
Right. I knew like you had to go there, but I didn't know you had to talk to the servitor first. So I was like trying to look for something interactive in the front there. I'm like, I'm not interacting right. Which is usually what happens in Destiny. Let's be honest. I'm usually not interacting. A couple
of known issues here that I really want to address before we go into the new season, because some of these are going to annoy people. The Arbalest exotic linear fusion rifle will not work with anti-champion mods in Season of the Redacted. In a future update, anti-barrier will be added as an intrinsic perk for this weapon. Players with a full inventory will not earn seasonal currency, and the currency will not go to the postmaster. So be very careful about that. We had a hilarious glitch earlier this week about Xbox players receiving negative silver balances, which was hilarious because Johnny got hit with that. It was like negative 30,000 or something.
Oh, Jesus.
And he's like, he just sent me a picture of it. And he goes, I'm going to be really embarrassed. This is how much silver I've spent lifetime in this game. Like, I'm going to be embarrassed for you, my guy. The Vex Fanatics Radiolurian fluid pool persists and continues to do damage for 8 to 9 seconds after the visual pool disappears. I am very afraid with that. And the elevator and the corrupted strike can sometimes not be interacted with, blocking progression of the strike entirely. So that's a little frustrating, all that together. But at the end of the day, that is the end of the TWAB. There's a final note from Cosmo at the end that I want to share. 5 more sleeps until the reveal. If you have a community you like, watching reveals with co-streaming is allowed. We've been hyping this up, but at the same time, don't want to overhype it. Let's just say you should expect at least one video and somebody talking about Destiny. There, I've said too much. Listen, we're excited. We hope you enjoy what you've been cooking up, or what we've been cooking up. And I think the last point is something I really want to hammer home. Like, I tweeted this earlier in the week, and I've discussed this with a few friends that play a lot of Destiny. Corey, Nerd, Colonel, Johnny, my buddy Matt. Basically anybody who's been on the show or that we've talked about before in past. That the energy around this feels different. Like, I don't remember there being this much anticipation for Shadowkeep or for Forsaken, Shadowkeep, or Beyond Light's reviews.
Well, I mean, Forsaken, I think everybody was just kind of disappointed in, obviously, the two...
myself included. Yeah.
Like, the 2 expansions, right? Like, I think people were just disappointed.
That was arguably the lowest point of the franchise,
and
was that whole first year. Yeah.
And people were just... Forsaken was like a nice surprise for them, right? So, like, there wasn't hype, but people really liked Forsaken, right? And then Shadowkeep was kind of like... It's fine, but like
we're going back to the moon. Like, can they really replicate the success? And then Beyond Light. I mean, Beyond Light got revealed in a really rough time for all of us last June. It was coming off, I think, inarguably the worst seasonal content they've ever done outside of Curse of Osiris.
Right.
They had a season that was somehow worse than Dark Below, but they managed to do it. And
they did it, guys. They did it.
I think coming off of it, we'll address this kind of at the end after we get to Lore Corner, but there feels to be a different aura around the game since Beyond Light came out. I think we've all the storytelling was real. I think the storytelling and the gameplay was like mission structure. I've gone into this a lot, was really good in Beyond Light, like especially when you compare it to Shadowkeep or to D2 Vanilla. But on top of that, like we've said, we all felt underwhelmed by the Season of the Hunt activity, by the hunts you had to do. But the storytelling with Crow and was so good.
Yeah,
and that in the Splicer, like we've been on such a good streak. Really, like I saw somebody point this out earlier. Ever since they decided to get rid of sunsetting, the game has increased like dramatically. It has gotten better, like just in every aspect. There's more communication now. Not more. There's better communication, right? There's a willingness to walk back things that we thought were set in stone, and it's because the community made their voices heard, and for the most part, did so in a respectful way. I don't know, man. I'm really excited Tuesday. One thing I will note, we've addressed these leaks before, but the Halo stuff, according to Paul Tassi, is most likely not true, which we've also said we felt like that was a pretty big stretch.
Right.
So he basically has said, do not expect anything. Don't read too much into Xbox going right after Bungie. It's probably part of their marketing deal. Like, oh, you just revealed Witch Queen. We're going to show the same trailer at our show.
Yeah. Which
is what they've done in the past with, they did it with Shadowkeep and with Beyond Light, I believe.
Right.
So interested to see what happens here. I expect that they'll give us the official confirmation. Hey, it's coming to Game Pass. It's on Game Pass today.
Yeah.
Game Pass for PC. It is live right this second. Go nuts. Go crazy.
Right.
But speaking of things going live, I accidentally announced something really early today.
Yeah.
A help article went live for anti-cheat. Anti-cheat has become something of a meme in this community, and for good reason. It is ridiculous. We've all seen the video of the Super Soaker Wither Hordes zooming around on Trials maps.
Yeah.
We've all seen it. And they're funny the first couple times you see it, but I can't imagine the frustration of actually facing something like that. The anti-cheat that they will be using is the same one that Ubisoft uses for Rainbow Six Siege, which elicited a groan from some of the community who was like, oh god, no, I don't like this. I want to say this. It cannot possibly be worse than the non-existent anti-cheat that we have right now. It cannot possibly be any worse.
Right. Yeah.
It could be so much worse. Like, we have had worse. It cannot possibly be worse. And this is the first iteration of it that will be expanded upon. But I think this is probably the best solution, was to go with something like, from what I understand, this is one of the better ones. It doesn't kick all the cheaters out completely. Obviously, nothing is going to catch 100% of them. Mm-hmm. But outside of like using Riot's anti-cheat tools, I don't know if there's anything better personally.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't know a whole lot about anti-cheat software. So if you do, please feel free to write into the show and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. I welcome that, because I do not know. I'm simply making a guess that if it was good enough for Siege, which has competitive tournaments, then I'm hoping that it's good enough for Destiny, at least for right now.
Yeah.
I have to imagine they're working on an internal solution for Matter. I have to assume that something new is coming.
Yeah.
And that this is a placeholder for a year or two or something like that. But Steam is where we see a lot of the cheating at. And the cheating really was non-existent until Steam. It is a lot easier to cheat in Steam than it was with Battle.net, I believe.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But that was something that went live a little too early. Cosmos said they plan to address this on Tuesday. That's when this is supposed to go live as part of the preparation for crossplay. So we'll be looking forward to that. We're gonna shift things around tonight. We're gonna do our last lore corner of the season real quick, and then we're gonna kind of close out our thoughts on Splicer before we get on out of here.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do the thing. Do I have it? I do have it pulled up. It's Forbidden Memory. It is the exotic ship that we get this week. It's a real short one, and I think it was kind of the right note to end the season on.
What's it called? What you say?
Forbidden Memory.
Okay. I have to actually do some producing a little bit now that we're breaking out lore corners. So, dude, it's been such a not a nightmare, but sometimes like on our older episodes, we do like a 5 or 10 minute lore corner, and sometimes we'd spend like 30 something minutes on lore corner and just scrubbing through the episode trying to figure out where it starts. It's just like, oh my god.
Right.
So, okay, I'm ready.
Hang on, my tab decided to freeze up.
Freezing tabs.
All right, there we go. Finally, light a candle for those we've lost. Commander Zavala whisked silently through the tower, his path lit only by the pale of the traveler. He had postponed this trip until the dead of night, when only the souls around would be as eager to avoid conversation as he was. Here in the darkness, his title dropped away and he was just Zavala. He had spent his day both dreading and anticipating this journey. Of all his worries, this short walk had burdened him the most. His preoccupation ended with his arrival at the memorial. It was a hodgepodge of items provided by both humans and Elixni. Zavala found their incongruity comforting. Reaching out, he took a candle. He closed his eyes and cast his memory back to the day of her funeral. the smell of low tide and the rumble of thunderclouds on the horizon. He felt their static charge surge through the salt air and into his body. He opened his eyes and the wick burst into flame. Zavala smiled. It was just the type of parlor trick she had always enjoyed. Zavala placed the candle amongst its extinguished fellows, soothed by the tiny flickering flame. He reached back, calling forth another memory. Her lithe form, curled under the thin blankets in contented sleep, the pre-dawn glow seeping in the room. Her dark curls splayed across the white pillow, her musky floral scent, her clothes strewn across the furniture. He yearned to reach out and awaken her, see her drowsy smile, hear her voice, but he knew that would transform the experience from memory to fantasy. He wanted to preserve her as she was, perfect and mortal. Then the moment vanished, and he was Commander Zavala once more. So the big news here, Zavala had a wife. We've talked about this season really bringing out the humanity of our cast of NPCs. We've seen Saladin show a side he's never shown before.
Like a guardian wife, or like a human wife, or like a mortal wife.
I think that's something that's going to be probably revealed in the future. I expect it to be revealed in the coming seasons in little lore pieces, because I don't think that's just something that you write and then drop. Mm-hmm. Especially when it's definitely implying that Zavala was getting down, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely had the suave voice of Lance Reddick.
You think he was just like, you could call me Commander.
Yeah, did she have to call him Commander in the bedroom or what? Like that's a little fucked up. Anyways, I think this really ties into the humanizing stories we've seen, with Saint, with Mithrax, Ikora, even to a degree Lakshmi and Arkjal, Executor Hideo. We've seen a side of so many characters that they have kept hidden. This has really brought a lot of things to light this season, either intentionally or unintentionally, for us through the lore, through the actual story that we see play out in the cutscenes and in the game. And I think this is just one of those humanizing touches that, if you've never really cared for Zavala as a character, I would urge everybody to read this and to read the final piece that we read last week of the Under the Endless Night book, because I think it paints a very different Zavala than the one that we are presented with in game at times. I think especially up until Shadowkeep, we were presented with, not even Shadowkeep, I would even argue Season of Arrivals is really when we started seeing a change in him. But I think over the last year, Zavala and Saint have quietly become the two best characters that are in the game today. Mm-hmm. As much as I like Crow has had a lot of growth in a very short amount of time, but Saint has had his entire worldview changed when it comes to the Elixni over the course of a season.
Yeah.
We talked last week about how he declares that the Elixni are his people. That he has to protect them.
Yeah, I mean, we talked even at the beginning of the season where with everything that happened within the last year in terms of racism and just all kinds of things, and people trying to do it and maybe succeeding in some ways and not in others, that a game like Destiny, a game where you're a space wizard shooting aliens and robots and stuff, tells one of the most compelling stories about racism and changing of the views and
just humanity.
Yeah. And it's incredible.
It's an unexpectedly deep game. I've always enjoyed Bungie's storytelling, but I think use something, especially what they've done over the last year and a half or so. I think ever since, or I would say since Arrivals, the story that they've been telling has just been, the narrative team has knocked it out of the park.
Oh yeah.
We've talked about it a lot, and I think that's really one of the big strengths right now. There may not always be the content for you to make this your everyday or every week game, but the story is enough to keep most of us there for about 2/3 of the season until it wraps. Mm-hmm. And then we go and play something else, which is the way that the Bungie has always said they want us to play their game.
Yeah.
They want you to be able to dip in, out. And, that's fine. Like those of us who are obsessed with hoarding bright dust or getting everything from may log in every single week. Those people will remain nameless on this show. I think
his name is Fosh Ginny.
Yeah, something like that. God, fuck that guy. I think that this type of lore, though, really brings back to these NPCs have like they are brought alive in such a way. Like I would never expect to read something like this in the Halo universe unless it was in a novel. I wouldn't expect an in-game lore piece to give me something like that. I mean, we didn't until Halo 4, really, or excuse me, 3, when we got Bornstellar and the Diadact and the Librarian and things like that. Like Destiny is doing something that not just shooters aren't doing, but games in general aren't doing, and that's telling a humanizing story. But you have to dig for less and less now more and more of it is on the surface. I see more people on Twitter and on Reddit discussing the lore like this than I ever have before. Like they're not waiting for a Bife video or for Mylan to put something out. Like they are straight up wanting to talk about it and have discussions. And I think that's something so powerful that brings us together in this game. And it's like, this is a human emotion. This is one of the few times I think we've seen Zavala act like a mortal human. In this moment, he is not immortal. In this moment, he's taking stock of everything he's lost. He's taking stock of his wife, girlfriend, side piece. I don't know, but he's clearly remembering somebody, and I expect that the story with her isn't over quite yet. Bungie likes to lay things down in the lore and then address it later on.
Yeah.
And if that's any indication, I really need them to put the Guardian bookie into the game. So, but that does it. That is as a final, very short lore corner on Season of the Splicer.
Powerful
of course,
one,
next
though.
week. Yeah, a very powerful one. We've had so many powerful ones this season.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like sometimes even like the smaller lore pieces that we do is just, it's powerful, even more powerful than the bigger ones, right? Like it's just
right. There's always the expanding story to talk about. Like there's the coup in the tower, what Crow is up to during this season. Since he's largely off screen. Of course, there was the Kaido lore last season, and there was what Osiris was having Crow do, and this and that. But then there's scenes like we got in Survivor's Epitaph, where Shaxx and Mithrax have a moment talking about Six Fronts and Twilight Gap, about who was the real monster there. There's the cutscene we get with Saint, where he finally realizes how the Elixir see him. There was Saladin, being told he couldn't see Zavala by Faux Cyrus. And there's just all these moments that are, we talked last week about, Amanda and Neek, talking and bonding over fixing Pike and a Sparrow together. There's just these, it's the little moments in this game, I think, that get me just as much as the Books of Sorrow, or as much as, taking down literal inner space gods.
Yeah.
But it's reading 5 or 6 paragraphs that's like, oh shit. Like, that's what the people in this game, like, is their motivation to keep fighting. Like, now I feel like I understand Zavala a little bit better than I did at the beginning, even at the beginning of the season, even though we learned so much about him this year. I feel like I respect him even more as a character now, like knowing this is in the back of his mind every time he makes a decision.
Yeah.
He didn't want us to go chasing Cade because he didn't want us to end up like Cade or like his wife. He didn't want Ikora to end up that way. He refuses to let the people of the city end up that way. Like, now it kind of explains why he's the way he is in the dark future.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's a storyline that's been in the back of my mind all year. Is the dark future. So
yeah.
Of course, we come back next week. We'll start talking about seasonal lore. Gets a few weeks to get our bearings on the new season, and it is a really long season, so we gotta kind of watch what we do when we do it. I want to do an expanded Savathun breakdown, an updated one, since we have so much more over the past year than we did before.
Right, and also, like, I've been putting this in the descriptions of the episode, but if you have, like, especially this season in particular, if there's stuff that happened before Beyond Light or even like Destiny 1 or anything, like if you have lore suggestions that you like want to learn about, email us and we'll try to weave it in, because this is going to be a long season.
It's a very long season, and we would definitely like to take your suggestions and, you know, answer what you want. Like, this is probably going to be a 6-7 month season for us. We are going to run out of things to talk about at some point. So, but with this to talk about seasons, Corey, Splicer is coming to an end. We have 4 or 5 more days. I have 1 more Grandmaster Nightfall farm tomorrow. Finally get this stupid Uzim sniper I have not gotten at all. And what do we think? What do we think overall? Like, let's start with the narrative.
I think that the seasonal narrative was good. Like, I really loved I love Saint and his change of heart, and like just the Lakshmi 2 kind of, you know, oh, I'm gonna try to change everybody's mind, and then she's dead. Like I love that aspect. I really loved, you know, getting more Mithrax too, right? Like I feel like we've been talking about Mithrax for a long time. Just because
it's been a long time coming.
I mean, he's been around, but he hasn't like really been a focal point of the season or of the series until recently, right? And I love how, you know, him and Saint are now kind of like best buds, kind of, you know.
I need a buddy cop comedy with those two.
Shooting Vex together. Dude, by the way, if they ever make a Saint 14 and Mithrax statue like the Stranger one,
oh, insta-buy.
Yeah.
Insta-buy. You gotta think that's the next one now, right?
Well, let's see. What is the next one? Eris is the next one, right?
Well, so they usually announce one towards the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So, or after a reveal. So I'm expecting to get one announced here for this fall.
Yeah.
And I really hope it's Mithrax and Saint.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've talked about, like, there are so many statues we would buy. Not to get into collecting talk, but there's so many we would buy. That would instantly be at the top of my list to get, is if you had one of them back to back.
Yeah. Yeah, or like one of the, like, just standing next to each other, like the scene at in the epilogue, like
right.
Them just, yeah, that'd be so awesome.
Oh, I would pay so much money for that. But so we had that. We brought factions back, only to lose them again.
Yeah, which I think is
kind of cool to see Lakshmi at the forefront of things.
Yeah, because like we don't really see the factions at the forefront ever. You know, like in Destiny 1, it was like, oh well, I want the Dead Orbit exotic Titan mark and wear it around, right? But other than that, or like the faction rallies in vanilla, but like they're like not real characters. They're just like the Dead Orbit goth guy and the future warcar robot lady, and it's just like, oh well, Lakshmi is like having her at the central point and actually having her be like the, I guess you would say, the point where Saint and Mithrax kind of, you know, she's like the link that chains them together almost to an extent, right? And
it backfired spectacularly on her.
Yeah, and it was awesome. Like I really loved that. I think that this whole expansion storytelling wise has just been, God, it's been so top notch. It's been the best.
It's been great.
It's been the best Destiny's ever been. I will say that for sure.
I would say in terms of the storyline, I agree with everything you've been saying. I have 2 things that didn't quite land for me.
Okay.
And I really hate that I have to point these out, but remember when we had all those taken orbs in the tower and nothing ever came of it?
Oh yeah.
That really bothers me, and that was obviously supposed to meant to be lining up with Kira showing up. And in Kira, like, she's not dead. We know she's not. She's likely just escaped into the Vex network, or that was like, there's no way she's not going to be in the Savathun raid. But
really anticlimactic.
Extremely anticlimactic. I was really bummed that, because like when they name dropped her, I was like, oh, finally talking about her. Like, I've been waiting for this since Forsaken. I am so excited about this. Like, the murder battery is And then it was just underwhelming. I thought it was a cool fight, but it was just underwhelming. Like, you talk about things that should have been, I guess I'll shift into while I'm saying this. Like, you talk about things that should have been strikes, and that for me should have been a strike.
Mm-hmm.
You're going through all of the expunge missions, through chunks of them, to get to Kira. And the boss fight, I mean, there's a decent amount to do there. You know, you have to take down both sides, you have to kill her. Like, I did it solo. I think that provides a fair enough challenge that it could have been a strike.
Yeah.
And it should have been. I mean, that is the kind of content that that's the one complaint I still have about Seasons is you're going to lose content like that. You're going to lose cool content like Presage, like Harbinger. You're going to lose, you won't lose Proving Grounds, thankfully. That strike will be in the, that's a strike, it'll be in the game, but this should have been a strike.
Yeah.
And so help me God, if you don't use this aesthetic for a Crucible map and a Gambit map, I'm going to turn on Find Your Location, and I'm going to show up at Joe Blackburn's house and be like, dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Like,
you have the perfect aesthetic here to build some maps out of that would be truly unique in this game, and you haven't done it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the, like, when we talk about seasonal content, I think, personally, Battlegrounds were a little bit more engaging.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think they took a lot longer to do.
Yeah.
A Battleground could take about 15 to 20 minutes to do. An Override you could conceivably have done in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I liked Overrides, but I did get I think the seasonal arena model has it. I think I'm finally done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I look at all of the events we've had since they started doing seasons. I'm not going to count Opulence or Black Armory or anything like that. I'm going to say since the beginning of actual seasons. We had the Vex Offensive. We had the Sundial. We had the stupid fucking public event that was across like 4 different planets. Seraph Towers, which is, God, it's the worst fucking thing Bungie's ever made for Destiny. I swear to God. You had the Arrivals public event, which was much, much more appealing.
Mm-hmm.
You had Wrathborn hunts, which was a nice change of pace. You could easily do those solo, which I really appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, the rewards were not good at all.
No.
You had Battlegrounds, and now you have Override. You have Override. You had Override and Expunge, which I think really taxed on a lot of people. You had to do so many expunges for the seasonal title.
Yeah.
And for challenges. And it was just like, I was just beating my head in because I spent hours running those in a row just to try and get them done. Yeah. And it was just terrible. Those were missions I feel like you do like once or twice and you're done. If you want to go run them extra times, like in subsequent weeks for powerfuls, go for it, but don't force me to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely felt forced into doing them.
Yeah.
I think Override is fun. I think it's a mindless little arena activity, but at a certain point, I think seasonal activities need to evolve beyond that. The reason why we're still talking about the Menagerie is it did something that no other event did or has done since then, but it also took an entire studio working on it.
Yeah.
To my understanding, that's what Victoria's Visions or High Moon, one of those two, was working on exclusively.
I'm pretty sure it was High Moon.
Okay. So one of them was working on that exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
And that's bonkers to me. That is absolutely bonkers. I hope with how much Bungie has staffed up, they can start exploring things like that, especially if these are going to be in all year.
There's also got to be a middle ground though, right? Where like you can do something as interesting as a Menagerie on a smaller scale. You have I think you could do that. Right?
I think that part of the thing that we're talking about with this comes down to I think we're tired of running the same type of activity. Like, we can target our loot better than ever now with Umbral Ingrams. When we talk about Menagerie, so much the fond memories we have of because I keep seeing the loot was so good, the loot was amazing. No, you guys are thinking of how the loot was when we had to literally make a chart of things you could get from the rune combinations. And you are thinking of when it was glitched and we all ran back in and out of the room 6 different times trying to jam our rune combinations in to open the chest again. When it was the actual rewards, everybody hated it. Because it was 20 minutes for one piece of armor or for one gun.
Yeah.
And it was real bad. Like, we look at Menagerie with such rose-colored glasses. I think ideally an activity like Override is probably what I expect from a seasonal activity, as long as the storytelling is good.
Yeah.
I want the storytelling missions to go beyond, go run this with this specific weapon this week, and then come back and talk to 3 different people and it's over. The dialogue is great. The lore piece is great. Give me something more compelling for the story mission, though. And I think that's something that they did really, really well in Chosen was, we're going to divert you to go do this lost sector. And you gotta go pick up something you've never seen in there before. Or you got to go to 3 different lost sectors. You got to run this strike. I think doing things like that makes it much more engaging than just, go do Override like 3 times until you get all the percentages you need, and then you can come back and talk to us.
Right.
Like, I think that at some point that formula has to evolve, and I think that needs to happen fairly soon, because I think veteran players who play every single season, get like 200 levels on their pass every season, like myself, are starting to get real tired of that formula. Yeah. I played, as much as I enjoyed the season, I played probably the least I've played a Destiny season in probably 2 years this season.
Yeah.
The last time I played this little was when I sat out during Joker's Wild. I cannot remember. I played more during Season of the Worthy. If I was earning XP at the same rate I had during Worthy, i.e. without the challenges, I would have finished with like maybe 120 levels on my season pass. Maybe. And that would have been by far the lowest I've ever done. And the previous lowest was when Undying was super slow. So, like, I enjoy Override. I enjoyed Expunge. I think you should have picked one of those to be your activity.
Yeah.
And not necessarily both. Or made the Expunges into strikes. Or something like that. I don't know. Put them into a playlist. Like, there's so many things you could have done there, I think. And some Override maps were far better than others. I think the Moon one was personally more engaging for me.
Yeah.
Or one of the Moon one. I don't even remember which planets we had. And we had the Moon. We had Europa. I don't know what else we had.
I don't remember.
But yeah, I don't remember either. That's how memorable this was for me. I think that was cool. I think those were good, though. I think going to the Elixni Quarter and putting it in the Scourge of the Past Arena was a good decision overall. But do we have like kind of any last minute? I'm not including Vault in this because Vault wasn't really a seasonal drop. It did come out this season. I'm happy for it. I've talked extensively about Vault. I don't think we really need to rehash that one.
Yeah. No, I mean my final thoughts on the season are just it was.
Hit me with your final thoughts.
It was great. Like I mean the storytelling was great. Like you said though, like seasonal events kind of ran, long sometimes, and I just kind of would log in once or twice a week towards the end of the season and just do some Pinnacle stuff and just try to gear up or whatever, try to get some upgrade modules and enhancement cores and that kind of crap. But
and they've made it easier than ever for us to level up now too, by only increasing the cap by 10.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of what I'm kind of going to use this long season for, is to I'll log in once a week to do some Pinnacle stuff, maybe play with with our friend Mitch, who I usually play with on Friday nights, and do that stuff. But I'm going to try to, I mean, when Halo comes out, I probably won't play at all for a while unless there's something really unique going on. I'll log in once a week or whatever.
And I mean, that kind of ties into what we're hoping for Tuesday is what are going to be some of the plans when we see that roadmap for this 6-month season. Yeah. Now that you acknowledged, you knew about the delay back in February when they told us at the beginning of February, I expect to have plans. That was 6 months out. You had time to plan for it. It's not you were in the middle of the season saying we got to punt for a month and a half.
Mm-hmm. And I really hope it's not we're going to do the first 3 weeks of really great storytelling and then take 5 weeks off for Festival of the Lost or whatever. And then, I hope the storytelling stuff is at least consistent, even if it's not every week.
I think that has to be consistent. That's going to be the big thing for me. I guess kind of wrapping up my thoughts. I think this was a really good season.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably, in terms of actual seasons, when we talk seasons, I don't usually include Opulence or Joker's Wild or anything like that in this. Seasons for me is from Shadowkeep launch onward. I would put this probably as the second best season personally. Mm-hmm. I think it ties for second with Arrivals. Mm-hmm. I think Arrivals had a better overall activity, but And I think the Exodus quests were awesome. The Ruinous Effigy was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I think this season was missing, was a cool exotic quest.
Yeah, I think Arrivals did a great job of getting us excited for Beyond Light, but I think the overall storytelling in this season was way better.
I think it was more consistent this season. We didn't, like you said, we didn't have to wait weeks to see what happened. Like, I had the seasonal stuff wrapped up in like July last year, and I had to wait until like October to get, or excuse me, I had it finished in like August, but then I had to wait a few weeks to do Exodus Part 2. Then I had to come back in like October to finally get fucking Nocris.
Right.
Like, I hope we don't have this again next season. Like, this season I think was really cool. Like, I dipped and I came back for the epilogue.
Mm-hmm.
I logged in, did the epilogue mission, thought it was cool, logged right back out. I still play every week, even if there's no story stuff. I'll probably log in and play at least once a week because I'm playing with my friends or I'm chasing a specific piece of gear. Like, there is enough stuff in like Trials or in Nightfalls to keep me coming back and logging in for at least a day a week. It just may not be on reset day. And that's okay. Like, but when there's story content, I'm on exactly at reset. I'm logging in. I got to see the story stuff. I don't want to get spoiled.
Right.
And I think it's special for a game to do that. Like, I would probably put this, like I said, tied. Number 2, I think Chosen is indisputably the best overall. I think this is tied with Arrivals for the second best.
Yeah, I definitely think Chosen was.
I may have it edge Arrivals a little bit because I think the storytelling was just so top notch this season. Outside of the Kira mission, it was top notch. But I do think Arrivals had the better encounter overall event. But Season of the Splicer is now in the record books.
It is.
The book is closed, and we're opening one on Season of the Redacted.
The Redacted.
By the time you guys hear our voices next, we'll know what the season is called. We'll know about some of the plans for this fall, and man,
you'll
6 months.
You'll hear Josh's before mine. So
you will in fact hear me.
Yeah. So. Well, Josh, what do you say we get out of here and
let's get on
prepare for Tuesday? So I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to Tower Casuals. Just a reminder, again, Tower Casuals now has its own YouTube channel. If you want to watch the video version, you can subscribe there. If you enjoy the audio version, just keep listening to where you're at. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Tower Casuals. You can email the show at towercasuals@gmail.com. Josh, where can we find you?
As always, Twitter at Josh_Finn, 2 N's.
Yes, you can find me at I am CorianHD on Twitter. I think that's it. That's wow. Okay, I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to Tower Casuals. Remember, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, to leave us a nice review and 5-star rating, and we will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye now.